I noticed it the first time we had a fight about his brother's company. Not the business him. The way Julian's voice would drop an octave when he talked about Alistair's failure. The way his jaw would tighten. And somewhere deep in my gut, in that dark, dusty corner I don't let anyone visit, I'd feel a pulse. Not fear. Curiosity. What would it take for a man to trade his wife for a balance sheet? That thought sat inside me like a splinter for 3 years. I didn't know it then, but I was already doing the math, calculating my own price tag. And the sickest part, I wasn't horrified when I found out the number. I was just disappointed it wasn't higher. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The kind of grey that makes your skin feel like a wet towel. Julian came home with a bottle of wine he never drinks, and a silence that screamed. He sat me down on the couch, held my hand, the one with the engagement ring, and said, "Alistair's investor is pulling out. If we don't secure the merger by Friday, Father's company goes under. All of it." I nodded, waiting for the part where he'd ask me to co-sign a loan or sell my car. Instead, he looked at my collarbone. For 3 seconds. Just long enough for my stomach to drop into my pelvis. "He's always liked you," Julian said. "Since the wedding. He told me once. When he was drunk, my mouth went dry. I remember thinking, this is a test. If I react, he'll know I'm the kind of woman who even considers it." So I laughed. A clean, wife-like laugh. "Julian, what the fuck are you saying?" He didn't laugh back. He pulled out his phone and showed me a text from Alistair. "One night, she says yes. The deal closes Monday. No one finds out. Her choice." I sat there staring at those words while my brain short-circuited. And then God, this is the part that fucks me up. I felt my thighs press together. Not out of fear, out of curiosity. That dark, diseased curiosity I'd been hiding since I was 19, and first realized I got wet reading about women who were trafficked by their own husbands in novels. I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to know what it felt like to be the object so completely that someone would ruin their own family over it. So I looked at Julian, at the man who was supposed to break a chair before letting another man touch me, and I asked, what does he mean by one night? The relief on his face was so immediate, so unguarded, that I almost threw up. He smiled. "Just stay over at his place. Let him, do what he wants, and then he signs the papers." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. I said, "I need to think." And I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and touched myself while staring at my own reflection. Came in 40 seconds. Washing my hands afterward, I looked at my ring and whispered, "You absolute whore." And I meant it as both an insult and a compliment. Thursday, I drove to Alistair's apartment myself. Julian didn't come. He kissed my forehead and said, "I'll send you the address." No tears. No hesitation. Just the quiet efficiency of a man sending his car for servicing. I wore a black dress, the one Julian bought me for our anniversary. That detail still makes me laugh in the worst way. I remember standing outside Alistair's door, my hand raised to knock, and thinking, once this happens, you can never unbe the woman who did this. But I also thought, if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what it felt like to be wanted that badly. That's the part I don't tell therapists. That I wasn't forced. I was offered, and I accepted. He opened the door in a t-shirt and jeans. No shoes. Like it was just another Tuesday. He didn't say hi. He grabbed my wrist, not hard, but firm, pulled me inside, and closed the door. "You came," he said. "Yeah," I said. "Don't make it weird." He laughed, and then he kissed me, and it was nothing like kissing Julian. Julian kisses like he's reading a manual. Alistair kissed, like he was trying to eat my soul through my mouth. His hand went up my thigh before we even made it to the couch. My brain was screaming times, "What the fuck are you doing?" But my body was already arching into him. He smelled like cigarettes and expensive cologne. He bit my lip hard enough to draw blood and whispered, "Say stop if you want." I didn't. He carried me to the bedroom. I saw a camera on the nightstand, a small one, pointed at the bed, red light on. My heart stuttered. "What's that?" I asked. He didn't answer. He unzipped my dress. "Julian knows," he said. It was his idea. And, in that moment, I realized I wasn't the prize. I wasn't even the currency. I was the receipt, the proof that the transaction happened. I let him push me onto the bed. I let him do everything. And the worst part? The absolute worst. Soul-crushing. I need to burn in hell part. It was the best sex of my life. He did things with his mouth that I didn't know were physically possible. He made me come 3 times. I clawed his back. I screamed his name. I was so loud that after the first orgasm, I slapped my own hand over my mouth, and he pulled it away and said, "No, I want him to hear." That's when I understood. This wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was a competition. And I was the fucking scoreboard. Afterward, I lay there with my thighs shaking, staring at the ceiling, while Alistair got up and checked the camera. He replayed a clip. My face, mid-scream, twisted in pleasure. He smiled. "Good quality," he said. I sat up, pulling the sheet over myself, and asked, "What happens now?" He shrugged. "The deal closes Monday. You go home. Pretend this never happened." I nodded. I got dressed. I drove home in silence. I walked into my apartment, saw Julian sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey he didn't drink, and I said, "It's done." He nodded. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't touch me. He said, "Good." And I went to the bathroom and threw up. But here's the twist. Here's the part where your brain clicks 3 seconds late. 3 months later, I found out the deal was never at risk. Alistair's investor was his best friend. The crisis was manufactured. Julian orchestrated the whole thing. The threat, the text, my choice, because Alistair had leverage over times. Him, a gambling debt. A secret account. I don't know the details. What I know is, I wasn't sacrificed for the family business. I was the payment for Julian's own sins. He sold me to cover his fucking poker losses. And Alistair didn't just want one night. He wanted a permanent record. A leash. Because every time Julian fucks up now, Alistair sends me a screenshot of a different frame. "Ask your wife what position she preferred." And Julian pays. And I stay. Because if I leave, Alistair releases the video. And if I talk, Julian goes to jail. And somewhere in the darkest, most honest part of me, the part that's not a victim, not a wife, not a woman anymore, I don't know if I want to leave. Because the first time Alistair sent me a frame, I stared at it for 20 minutes, and I was disgusted, and I was horrified, and my thighs pressed together, and I closed my eyes, and I touched myself, and I came. Now Julian sits across from me at dinner, and I smile. He smiles. We eat. We talk about the weather. And neither of us mentions the folder on his hard drive labeled Family Trip 2022. And neither of us mentions that my body isn't mine anymore. It's the currency that keeps this marriage alive. And the worst part? The part that makes me want to claw my own skin off? I'm not sure I'd want it any other way. Because at least now, someone wants me enough to ruin their life to keep me. Even if it's not him. He just walked in. He's looking at my phone. I'm typing this. He's smiling.